Good afternoon. We're getting right down to business here, doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money, live on the air, the voice of business news in Los Angeles, here on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide, KBC.com, and your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, KBC.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Record-shattering week on Wall Street as President Trump and Vladimir Putin wrap up their summit in Alaska. They're holding a news conference right now as we speak. President Trump just said, "We had a very productive meeting, made some great progress today." Apparently no deal yet, but some progress was made to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. The Dow Jones Industrial Average making news today, kissing a record high intraday, but falling short at the closing bell of its all-time high by about 68 points. The Dow did manage a closing gain of 35 points, selling at 44,946. The S&P 500 settled lower by 19 points to 6,450, coming off its all-time high. And the Nasdaq, which hit a record high over the past week, pulling back 88 points today at 21,623. Warren Buffett helping to fuel the rally today, a vote of confidence in United Healthcare stock, but it fell short of settling its first record high close of 2025. This after Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway showed it had added United Healthcare stock to its portfolio, taking about $1.6 billion in the last quarter, a position of $1.6 billion. United Health shares did shoot higher today by about 12%, although they remain down about 40% for the year. Watching developments in Alaska today as that big summit wraps up. We'll keep an ear to what's going on there and, of course, pass along the major headlines as we get them here. Intel in the spotlight today again at 70 cents at $24.56. That stock has gotten a pop this week after the news that came out, a report that President Trump said he could announce levies on semiconductor imports next week, and also that the U.S. is considering taking a stake in Intel, and that gave a boost to Intel stock. We'll be talking more about that here in just a few moments. The Trump administration discussing options with Intel that could involve the federal government taking a financial position in Intel. That idea came up during the president's meeting with the Intel chief executive officer, Lip-Bu Tan, earlier this week, and the discussions are still in an early stage, according to the Wall Street Journal. The price of gold hovering at around $3,381 and change. We see a Bitcoin hitting a record high this past week, above 124,000. Right now at 117,500 or so. Looking ahead, investors preparing for a big speech from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell next Friday at the Jackson Hole Symposium. That's where all the world central bankers gather, and may get some news from that. Secretary Powell, or Fed Chairman Powell, said that the Fed needs to see more data on how tariffs are affecting inflation before adjusting policy. Just yesterday, we got a hotter than expected reading on inflation at the wholesale level. Record-shattering week on Wall Street, optimism on Main Street, Los Angeles, with the rebuilding effort continuing and big events, including the Olympics, on the horizon. Commercial real estate also said to be bottoming out in Los Angeles after a slow recovery coming off the pandemic. I'll discuss what's happening on the local business scene with a giant here in Los Angeles on the L.A. business scene, and that would be Maria Salinas, the president and CEO of the L.A. Area Chamber of Commerce, which held the State of L.A. Business Conference recently. Maria Salinas will be joining us live on this program later this hour. And it's party time at sea aboard the biggest and newest cruise ship in the world. We'll take you there live this hour with cruise guide Stuart CHIRON on board the newest Royal Caribbean cruise ship, Star of the Seas. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, crypto too. Joining us live now, Jonathan HOENIG, Fox News contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Jonathan HOENIG, good afternoon.
Frank, it's great to be with you. So much going on this week on Wall Street. Everything from Warren Buffett taking a value stake in United Health, as you said, that stock had bid down some 43% this year, to the U.S. government reportedly, as you also said, taking a stake in Intel, which would be pretty unusual for a Republican administration. What sticks out to me, big picture, is that hot PPI number we got yesterday. You know, we've been told time and time again the inflation is under control, tariffs are not raising prices. Well, you know, the PPI is the number that comes out pre-tariff. So what it says to me is that the producers have been eating the cost of a lot of these tariffs, and that's my worry, is that are we finally going to start to see inflation once again rear its ugly head? And in fact, bond yields were up this week instead of being down, as many people have thought.
On there live with Jonathan Hoenig, and a lot to digest, as you say here. The market's apparently still expecting a rate cut next month from the Federal Reserve, and we'll be hearing from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell a week from today. The Fed news also helped fuel the market rally to record highs, as a matter of fact, and even the Dow finally joined the party, kissing an intraday high today. What is the market telling us in the face of all this news? We're told the market is forward-looking, and we're at or near all-time highs here.
Well, what I'm noticing, Frank, is a trend that probably a few people are, and that is the game, if you will, is changing. I mean, and this usually happens at the beginning of a trend. Really, people don't make too much of a big deal. They don't notice it. But what I've noticed is that now small stocks are starting to really outperform. Small stocks are outperforming large stocks since that April 8th low. So some of those old reliables, the names, like Tesla, like Apple, they're actually down year to date. So, all-time highs is bullish, but I think it's going to be a different series of names that are leading the charge from now on. Much more value-oriented, much more international, and much more in terms of small stocks. I simply think the Mag 7 have had a hell of a run, but I think the run is in the past, and this is where you want to be focusing on now to make money in 2025.
All right, so the Russell 2K small cap index, which we don't often quote, but thanks for reminding us about that one. What's getting your attention? Would you go with that with some sort of an index fund there, or specific some small names that you might want to mention?
Price action more than anything else, Frank. Many of them are at 20-day highs, and you know what? 20-day high oftentimes become a 6-month high, becomes a 1-year high. The name I like quite a bit is DFIS. That's David, F as in Frank, I as in international, S as in small. DFIS. This is a basket of international small cap stocks. And, in the first 2-3 months of the year, it really was a weak U.S. dollar was powering those international names to multi-month high, in many cases all-time highs. So DFIS is a great way to take advantage of the trend. You always want to do your own due diligence, but, this is a place, Frank, that's breaking out, and that unlike AI, the herd we know is simply not there.
On there live with Jonathan Hoenig, and what about those Mag 7 names? Some people are still hot of them. We talked to one of our tech analysts who keeps saying tech, and we did see NVIDIA hit a record high this week, around 183 or so, and pull back today back to 180. Even Apple came back to life recently, and that one's been stuck in the mud, but Apple has been doing quite well recently, pulling back a bit today, down about $1 to $231 and change. What would you make any adjustments in the Mag 7 if you have them now? And it sounds like you wouldn't go into them at this point.
No, Frank, wonderful companies, incredible companies, but, a company and a stock are two different things. And so often we see that once an idea, once an investment thesis, if you will, is out there, once it's kind of known by the proverbial cab driver, if you will, it usually means that the easy money's been made. And the example I like to use lately is look at shares of Tilray. That's TLRY. I mean, this was the pot stock that was all the rage 8-9 years ago. This was going to own the entire cannabis industry. It traded at about $150 a share. Well, there's a lot more legalization now than there was back then, but the stock has fallen all the way to $1 a share because the valuation has contracted. So instead of looking at last year's winners' names, again, like the Mag 7, I'm looking at some of the magnificent names of Europe, for example, FEZ, FEZ. That's an ETF that tracks Europe's largest stocks. And, many of them, Frank, are just breaking out with valuations much smaller and much lower than we have here in the U.S. So take a risk on some of those international, some of those value, and some of those small names. I think that's where the next big bull market is.
All right, today also the retail sales numbers made news. Retail sales rose in the month of July. We had those some special sales promotions. Treasury yields, as you noted, rose after the latest retail sales and consumer confidence number. What about the retailers here?
Well, what worries me is a lot of the price action in the restaurants, Frank. I mean, Chipotle has been an absolute abysmal performer year to date. A lot of the other restaurants have fallen through, and oftentimes that can be a pretty good bellwether of the consumer. Is he or she going out to eat as much as he or she used to? So I am a little worried about the consumer here, and I think you haven't seen it necessarily show up in the retailers just yet, but many Americans have leveraged themselves to the hilt. The credit card has gotten quite a pounding. So I'm concerned about that. Everyday Americans with a lot of credit card debt and not a lot of assets to their name. So I'd be very concerned, very leery of retailers. Best of the bunch is Walmart. No one does it better, and that's the only name I'd touch in that industry right now.
All right, let's get to some of the exciting stuff here now. I know I don't think you have the laser eyes on yet, but you do pay attention to what's happening in the crypto space with Bitcoin hitting a record high this past week, and Ethereum was a big story too, and the Ethereum-related equities out there too have had a big jump, and we see Ethereum right now at about 4,400 or so, Bitcoin at 117.5 after hitting a record high above 124,000 this week. What about the cryptos here?
All-time highs. I mean, that's really all you have to say, Frank. I mean, so often what we think of as being the all-time high is just an all-time high. And the fact, as you said, that the entire group, not just Bitcoin, but Ether and some of the other smaller coins, the altcoins, if you will, all doing well, just says to me one thing, that the bull market in crypto continues. Now, you can't bet on everything, and this is not an area that I've invested my clients' money over at capitalspig.com, but the market is rewarding crypto, and that is a trend that's persisted in bull and bear markets for bonds, bull and bear markets for gold. The momentum still is with crypto, so don't fight the tape, don't fight Bitcoin at these levels.
All right, you mentioned Tilray, and as you noted, the stock was about 150 a share in 2018 before legalization of cannabis for medical and recreational purposes took hold in many states, and it's around $1 or so now. And what about the cannabis names, by the way, which we haven't focused too much on because Washington has been focused on other things, but I know there's some buzz there about possibly changing the laws related to marijuana and the different categories of drugs and so forth, which could change the equation in those. Any thoughts on that one?
The time to play him, Frank, might be actually, ironically, January of next year. There's a lot of very weak stocks in that sector. So what you often see, especially now we're starting to be in the towards the end of the year, is people sell their losers and they get a huge jump back in the early part of the following year. So I'd probably wait till January of 2026 to buy the pot stocks or any of the marijuana-related stocks. One I would buy this year, however, and it sounds pretty esoteric, but is an ETF that actually tracks African stocks. That's AFK is the ticker symbol on that one, Frank. And you know what? People think, oh, that's so frightening, that's so scary, that's so risky. Well, if you only invest 2 or 3% of your portfolio and you use a stop loss order of, let's say, 12 or 15%, you've taken that risk and you've really mitigated it. So I do think that, as I've tried to stress, I think international is a great place to be right now. There's no buzz, there's no herd, there's no activity, and there's just tremendously cheap, historically cheap valuations. Africa, a lot of people there are going to, be buying computers. Their lives are going to be improving, and AFK is one way to play it.
On there live with Jonathan HOENIG. We're following the latest headlines coming out of the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska. No ceasefire announcement following a several-hour summit, a several-hour meeting of the leaders of the U.S. and Russia today in Alaska regarding the Russia war with Ukraine. So no ceasefire announcement, but President Trump said some progress had been made. What about the defense names in the face of this announcement today?
I haven't seen them breaking out, but I have seen European stocks writ large doing pretty well, Frank. So, Europe had been kind of a no-go zone for a long time, but names like EWI, that's the ETF that tracks Italy, or EWS, I believe that's the ETF that tracks Sweden. And as I said, FEZ, FEZ, those are all places I'd want to put money to work. And China as well, CNYA. That's an ETF that just tracks the big Chinese market. A lot of those stocks are trading where they were back in 2008. So, what we've seen in the last 5 and 6 years is this real concentration of wealth in those wonderful AI-related stocks and tremendous companies. But now's the time to look a little bit off the beaten path. So I consider some of those names, those international names that I've mentioned, Fez for Europe, and CNYA for China. All good buys, in my opinion. And my clients, more than anything, own them over at capitalismpig.com.
On your live with Jonathan Hoenig. Any other specific places where you are putting money now and or taking it off the table?
Well, preferred stocks sound about terribly sleepy and boring, and sometimes, Frank, that's good. I think if we get a sell-off in large cap tech, you can hide out, if you will, in some names like PFFA. That's an ETF that tracks the index of preferred stocks, 6% yield on that one. I also like agriculture, DBA. As I said, we got that very hot PPI number. Perhaps inflation isn't dead. Perhaps it's rearing its very ugly head. We know gold hasn't retreated too far from its all-time high. DBA is a way to play corn, wheat, and soybeans. Do your own due diligence, but I think if you really want to diversify, Frank, can't just be stocks in that portfolio. I think you have to add some commodities as well. DBA is one way to play it, and that's another one that I own over at capitalismpig.com.
All right, the other story this week, IPOs popping. Anything that caught your attention among the new names on Wall Street? Bullish, for example.
Well, well, when you name the company Bullish, and the stock is up hundreds of percent in the first day or two of trading, Frank,
living up to its
dangerous.
name.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Look, it's dangerous to make comparisons to the era of 1999 and 2000, but something does seem not so dissimilar if we're in an era once again when simply having an IPO of a Bitcoin or a blockchain-related name is guaranteed a 200 or 300 point pop and a $10-15 billion market cap. We could be perhaps. Maybe not in nosebleed territory just yet, but getting closer and closer when it comes to crypto. The fact that some of those crypto names, those IPOs, had huge pops this week, it's pretty telling that we're in nosebleed. We're pretty close to the nosebleed section right now.
I have a feeling that some champagne bottles will be popped this weekend, and the cigars will be coming out with the Dow kissing a record high today, and the other averages also at record highs, at or near record highs as we wrap up the week. Jonathan, thank you very much. Hope you have a great weekend. And again, thank you very much for that thorough assessment here. That is Jonathan Hoenig, Fox News contributor, Fox Business contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund. His book is Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Best to you, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And out to the freeways we go now on 790 KABC. 790 KABC welcomes comedian Louis Black coming to the Orpheum Theater on August 23rd. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Right now, caller 9 wins. Call 1-888-795-2222 and get a pair of tickets to the show. If you're caller number 9, call right now, 1-888-795-2222. The tickets furnished by Live Nation. Mixed finish on Wall Street with the Dow kissing at an intraday high today, but falling short at the close. The Dow 35 points at the bell at 44,946, putting it about 68 points below its all-time high, which we saw back in December. The S&P 500 slipped 19 off its record high at 6,450, and the NASDAQ, which had a record high earlier this week, down 88 points at 21,623. The yield on the 10-year note is back up to 4.32%. The volatility index up 2%. United Health stock, a winner today at more than $32 at $304 and change. This is the one that Warren Buffett pointed to. Warren Buffett giving United Health stock a vote of confidence. In a filing yesterday, Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway showed it had added United Health stock to its portfolio, taking a roughly $1.6 billion position in that stock last quarter. United Health shares jumped, although they still remain down about 40% for the year. Magnificent One, NVIDIA, down $1.57 at 180.45. Hit a record high earlier this week, around 183. We see Apple having a big week, pulling back slightly today. Apple shares down $1.19 at $231.59. Intel 70 cents at $24.56. A lot of buzz on a report that the U.S. considering taking a stake in Intel. That is the U.S. government considering taking a stake in Intel, giving an extended boost to the chip maker's stock. A deal that could help advance the president's America First manufacturing agenda and could mark another intervention by the government into the private sector. Intel shares rose 23%, their biggest weekly gain in 6 months, after they earlier were on track for their largest weekly gain since 1975, according to the Wall Street Journal. President Trump also said he could announce levies on semiconductor imports next week. Latest headline from the meeting of President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin: no ceasefire, no agreement to end the war in Ukraine at this point. The next step remains to be seen, but no ceasefire announced, as their news conference has just wrapped up in Alaska. Taking a look at the cryptos now, we see Bitcoin hitting a record high earlier this week, above 124,000 at the high water mark, now pulling back to 117.5. Ethereum had a big week, pulling back now to 4,438, up about 4.5% for the week. Gold at 3,381 and change, down $1.50. Silver at 38.02, and platinum at 1,345 and change. And now the latest news on 790 KABC.
I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I am Tom Welling.
Welcome to Talkville,
where it's fun to talk about Smallville.
We're going to be talking to sometimes guest stars.
Are you liking the direction Lois is going in?
Yeah, because I'm getting more screen time.
It's good.
But mostly it's just me and Tom remembering.
I think we all feel like there was a scene missing here.
You got me, Tom.
Let's revisit it. Let's look at it. See what we remember.
See what we remember.
I had never been around anything like that before. I mean, it was so fun.
Talkville.
Talkville.
I just had a flashback.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to NFL Flag.
Are you ready? Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah!
No matter who you are, lace up your cleats, smear on your eye black, step out on the field and chase something. Chase a goal.
Let's get it!
Chase the big time.
Get down, ladies!
Chase rings. Chase gold medals. Chase all of it. It's all up for grabs now. NFL Flag. Chase something. Visit NFLflag.com to find a league and start the chase today.
Mottek On Money continues in 790 KABC. Good afternoon. Record-shattering week on Wall Street. Optimism on Main Street, Los Angeles, despite big challenges, with the rebuilding effort continuing and big events including the 2028 Olympics on the horizon. Commercial real estate said to be bottoming out in L.A. after a slow recovery coming off the pandemic. An epic rebuilding effort continues in the Palisades, Malibu, and Altadena. L.A. businesses, of course, facing many challenges, including tariffs, inflation, taxes, wage pressures, affordable housing, and the list goes on. Tackling all of this, one of the top leaders here in the second largest economy in the Western Hemisphere, the one and only Maria Salinas, President and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, who's joining us live here this afternoon. Maria Salinas, thank you very much for taking the call here today.
Thank you for having me, Frank. I appreciate being here.
Wonderful to be with you at the recent Los Angeles State of the Business Conference, which you hosted recently in downtown Los Angeles, and certainly a lot of issues to unpack here. But give us your view of things here at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. Thank you so much for having me. I think that, like your opening suggested, there is definitely a lot that businesses here in Los Angeles are tackling, from, global tariffs to the inflation, rising costs, and things of that nature. One of the things that we see is that there's definitely a tough period, and one of the themes that came out of our convening of business leaders was just the uncertainty that businesses are dealing with. And if there's one thing that businesses find very difficult to navigate is when the rules are changing, when policies go from, one spectrum to the opposite. And certainly we've seen that happen this year. The wildfires definitely created an added pressure on housing, and the labor shortages is another area that we tackled at our conference. And we certainly were able to focus of not only on what what were some of the challenges we were facing, but also the optimism, as you mentioned, by major events that are happening here in Los Angeles. So while it's a challenging time period for businesses, the silver lining is that there's tremendous amount of opportunity being created by major events that are happening here in Los Angeles. Next year, we will host several games for the World Cup. And in just 3 short years, we will be on the world stage when it comes to the 2028 Olympics.
On the air live with Maria Salinas, the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of everyone, thank you for your leadership here, Maria Salinas. And thanks for putting Lou Horn as the keynote speaker there about a week ago, giving a masterful keynote presentation on commercial real estate. And he said it looks like commercial real estate has bottomed out in downtown Los Angeles. And look what's happening in Century City, which we should remind everyone that's also part of Los Angeles, kind of a mini downtown there. You don't see too many places where office towers are being built, but in Century City, they're actually just about to finish a very large office tower there, and that area is nearly 100% occupied. So that's certainly a bright spot here, right?
Absolutely. Lou did an amazing job of really covering the landscape here from a real estate perspective and speaking to us of, the bright spots. And certainly in Century City, there's a lot of great activity that is happening there that is very encouraging. And as we shifted the focus in looking at downtown Los Angeles and his words about, bottoming out, that was certainly an optimism that was left with many of the attendees there. We continue to struggle with things like public safety and homelessness. The Chamber has certainly doubled down on increasing its visibility and as well as its engagement with people like Mayor Bass and Chief McDonald, Sheriff Luna, who are key to the public safety conversation, and having a good understanding of what pain points businesses have when it comes to the public safety conversation. That's something that is very important for the Chamber. It's a top priority and one thing that we'll continue to work on with our civic partners.
That's wonderful. It was great to see the CEO of the Union Rescue Commission, Mark Hood, attend the State of LA business event, and certainly great to see business support for URM. And I know he's looking forward to speaking with you next week on the Just Help One radio show and podcast here on 790 KBC next Thursday evening. But maybe you can preview for us. Tell us the ways the business community can support groups like URM on the homeless front.
Absolutely. I think that is really a telling sign of how important the Chamber's convening power is when you can have a room of business leaders, but you also have civic leaders in there. You always have community-based organizations like the Union Rescue Mission. It was great to see Mark Hood there and to be able to hear from him directly on the collaboration that works to bring about great solutions for homelessness. I know that he was connecting with business leaders that are looking to expand their hiring and maybe can tap into many of the programs that URM hosts. Next week, we'll be discussing a little bit about that and what collaboration looks like when it comes to the business community being able to step up and help solve problems like homelessness in an area like Los Angeles.
At this critical moment, Maria Salinas, what's the best way for business people to connect with you and to join the Chamber and to build a bigger and stronger voice here for the business community here in Los Angeles?
Well, thank you for that invitation to connect with us. Our website is lachamber.com. I am on that website and with a direct link to my email, which is probably the best way to connect, and I'd be happy to welcome other businesses into the Chamber. One of the things that we reiterated at the State of LA Business was the importance for businesses to be part of the conversation of civic Los Angeles, the importance to weigh in, to speak up and speak out. on many of the policy positions, the way our community is moving forward. We need all businesses, large and small, to be part of that conversation to shape the future. For us, the State of LA Business was an opportunity to hear from business leaders, civic leaders who are on the front lines, whether it's in housing and infrastructure, water and energy, all those things that make Los Angeles move forward. We know we're a powerhouse global economy, and hearing directly from business leaders help us shape the policy that the Chamber takes on. So I definitely welcome one and all to be a part of this organization that has been around in Los Angeles for over 130 years.
That is so wonderful, Marina. It was great to see you boosting all the sectors of the economy here, including tourism, with Adam Burke there, the head of LA Tourism, and the energy sector, too, which is still a very, very big part of the economy. So across the board, you're probably the hardest working person out there covering all the bases here. So thank you very much for taking this call this afternoon to wrap up that important conference, and look forward to working with you on many more events in the future and many more conversations here live on the air. Maria Salinas, the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And out to the freeways now, 790 KABC.
Former U.S. Navy SEAL Sean Ryan captures real stories about sacrifice and strength.
My biggest fear wasn't death. My biggest fear was nobody will remember me.
That motivates a lot of people.
It just made me feel invincible.
Open the steel door and just... They were all convinced, I think, that they were about to die. This rush of stress comes over me because now it's soul time.
All of a sudden, I'm saying, what is really important?
Let us reveal the truth of ourselves.
That's it.
The Sean Ryan Show. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. Heading into the weekend, it's party time at sea aboard the biggest and newest cruise ship in the world. Let's go there live right now with the cruise guy, Stuart Chiron, who's on board the newest Royal Caribbean ship, the Star of the Seas. And I thought that was your other name, Stuart, Star of the Seas, but you're on the ship named Star of the Seas. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Well, very nice and good afternoon to you, Frank. And yeah, we're just now lollygagging off the Florida coast, heading back to Star of the Seas home port, which is in Port Canaveral, which, believe it or not, is the second busiest cruise port in the world behind Miami. And Star of the Seas, like its sister ship, Icon of the Seas, you know, to give you an idea, the largest ship that the West Coast has ever seen is 168,000 tons. This ship is 250,000 tons.
Wow, that is amazing.
It's hard to imagine the enormity of it, but the ship flows so well, and it's hard to believe you don't feel the crowds.
It makes the Queen Mary here in Long Beach look like a rowboat. It sounds like, Stuart. So tell us about the new ship and what's gotten your attention so far.
Well, I mean, the sheer size. I mean, you know, being at about 250,000 tons, she holds 5,600 passengers, double occupancy, 7,600 full. That's when you add the third and fourths in. But the features. I mean, it's considered this just like Icon of the Seas, which sails in Miami and debuted in January of last year. It's the ultimate family vacation in the world. There's nothing in the world that has the facilities that this ship has. The theme parks, the water parks, the ice skating on many ships since debuting in 1999 have had ice skating rinks, but this one is significantly bigger, and the shows are terrific. Debuted today was the Back to the Future musical, and Bob Gale, who wrote Back to the Future, is actually on board, and he was blown away. He couldn't believe they were able to pull off a show on board the ship about Back to the Future, but they did it, and they did it in grand fashion. The areas for the adults, the areas for kids, the shows, the entertainment, the restaurants. I mean, there's so much on board that just about anybody will be entertained. And if you have kids, I mean, there's and their Adventure Ocean. I mean, for the little kids, and then going on up until the teenage years. I mean, there's tremendous facilities for everyone to enjoy themselves.
That is very exciting, and I saw some of your social media postings. It looks like they had the Back to the Future DeLorean on board. That is pretty amazing, too, to see that car on a ship like that. Stuart, this is the biggest and newest ship here. Maybe you can give us an update on what we can expect out of the Port of L.A. and Long Beach, something new and exciting out here.
Well, what's exciting, Royal Caribbean's coming in with Ovation of the Seas, which is one of their Quantum class ships. NCL is out there, Carnival is out there. The popularity of the Mexican cruises is starting to pick up, so I'm starting to see some renewed interest to get some of the newer, even larger, hopefully, ships. But I think they're also waiting on the port to have improved facilities. Of course, Princess Cruises out there, but they need improved facilities in order to attract some of the bigger ships, which is what a lot of the ports on the East Coast are doing, continually adding new terminals and larger facilities to accommodate these larger ships.
That's terrific. And as far as value is concerned, with inflation biting into vacation budgets these days, how the prices look on the ship you're on, for example?
Well, the good news is that if you had looked at Icon, which debuted, I mentioned last year, for the most part, you couldn't get on the ship for less than $2,000. Now the prices have dropped down to just under $1,000. Now that there's two ships, and then in 2026 there'll be a third. Legend of the Seas will debut out of Port Everglades. So, there's more opportunities for people to enjoy these types of ships. But I will tell you this, Frank, there are more people going on cruises today than at any time in history, and the future bookings are stronger than they've ever been because of the value proposition that they have over, let's say, hotels and land-based vacations.
On the air live with cruise guy Stuart CHIRON, who's on board the newest Royal Caribbean cruise ship, Star of the Seas. And anything else you'd like to mention about the ship there, Stuart? I'm so jealous. I'm so jelly right now. It must be spectacular.
Well, all I can tell you is, to those who have never been on a cruise, it is just the greatest vacation that you can go on. And believe it or not, this is my 340th cruise. There's just so much to do, and there's opportunities to do nothing, and it's just the relaxation. Open up your balcony, go out and look at the ocean. You can't get any closer to the ocean than you can, and there's so much room for people to be able to, explore, find your nooks and crannies in the areas that you like to spend some time in. It's great times for families. Families can really enjoy their time. You don't have to reinvent. You don't have to plan, but the ability to not have to pack and unpack, checking out hotels, wait at airports, and wake up in the same boring place each day, it makes a big difference.
That is amazing. So you've been on hundreds of cruises. What's the next cruise? I know you're always planning the next one.
Well, it's hard to say. The next one planned, Star Princess, is coming out in early November. She's going to be home porting in Port Everglades, and they just renewed, they just revealed details of their partnership with, LA's Magic Castle. So they have a new experience for passengers to be able to enjoy on this ship. So, which is similar to Sun Princess, which debuted last year. There's just a lot of excitement. Celebrity's got their new ship. Celebrity Excella will be out. Disney's got not one but two ships coming out before the end of the year. Disney Adventure is going to be based in Singapore. It was built for that market, but Disney Destiny in Port Everglades. There's a lot of really neat new ships coming out, and the outlook in the future just looks very, very strong for the cruise industry. And hopefully we'll see some more of these ships based in Los Angeles.
Yes. Well, I hope to see you there with them, Stuart. And you're the star as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much for that live report from the newest and biggest cruise ship in the world, the Royal Caribbean Star of the Seas. That is the cruise guy Stuart CHIRON, live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang. And I'll be back with more at 4 Monday afternoon right here on 790 KBC.
YouTube personality Benny Johnson has cracked the code on a new era of newsmaking.
Very controversial, very strong opinions. A person who speaks truth fearlessly, breaking for nobody.
It's a new cultural landscape.
We're not trying to politicize this. People are primed now, and forgive me, dude, it is what it is. Here's what's going on in your country, bro.
The Benny Show.
Get ready if this is something that you needed to put a little pep in your step. No? Yeah? Okay.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.